Ferris Bueller sat alone on the worn leather couch in his living room, staring at an old photo of himself and Cameron Fry. It was from their high school days, the two of them grinning like idiots, Cameron's arms slung awkwardly around Ferris's shoulders. That was Cameron, awkward, anxious, but fiercely loyal. And now, Cameron was gone. The car crash had been sudden. Cameron's fragile mental state had been a concern for years, but no one expected his life to be taken by something so mundane, so tragic. It had been a week since the accident, and Ferris still couldn't believe it. His best friend, the guy who had reluctantly followed him on all his adventures, was gone. Ferris, for the first time in his life, didn't know how to cope. Sloane had tried to comfort him, but there was a numbness in Ferris's chest he couldn't shake. He felt like a piece of him had been taken away, and no amount of charm, quick wit, or smooth talking could bring it back. One night, unable to sleep, Ferris found himself wandering the dark streets of his neighborhood. The autumn air was cold, biting at his skin, but he barely noticed. His mind was stuck in an endless loop of memories, driving Cameron's dad's Ferrari, skipping school, running through the streets of Chicago. But all those moments felt distant, as if they belonged to someone else. Suddenly, Ferris stopped in his tracks. In the shadows of a nearby alley, he saw a figure standing impossibly still, cloaked in darkness. It was tall, unnaturally tall, and something about it made Ferris's heart pound. He should have run, but something kept him there, frozen. Ferris Bueller, the figure said in a voice that was both distant and close, like the wind whispering in his ear. Ferris swallowed hard. Who are you? The figure stepped forward, revealing a gaunt face hidden beneath a dark hood. There was no mistaking it, this was death itself. I am here for you, Death said calmly. Ferris's pulse quickened. For me? Why now? Death looked at him with eyes as empty as the void. Cameron Fry wasn't supposed to die. He cheated me. You are the reason he defied his fate for so long. And now, Ferris, I have come for you. Ferris's mind raced. Cameron had always been on the edge, but Ferris had pushed him, dragged him into his rebellious escapades. He had always thought he was helping Cameron live a little, but now he realized that maybe he had just delayed the inevitable. Wait, Ferris said, his voice trembling. Cameron didn't cheat you. He needed more time. He needed to live, to break free from his dad, from all that pressure. Death tilted its head. And yet, time has run out. Ferris, feeling the familiar surge of reckless confidence, straightened up. I've always found a way out, right? Just one more time, give me a chance. Let me bargain with you. Death seemed amused, a slight twitch at the corner of its pale lips. And what would you offer in exchange for your life? Ferris thought quickly, then smiled. I'll play a game with you. A day off. Just like old times. If I win, you leave me alone. If I lose, well, you get what you came for. Death's eyes narrowed. A game, Ferris Bueller? Yeah, Ferris said. You can come along for the ride. Let's see how well you can handle living for a day. And so, the next morning, Ferris found himself in his car with Death riding shotgun. The cloak had been replaced by a suit, but there was no mistaking the skeletal hand tapping rhythmically on the dashboard. Ferris felt a strange exhilaration, like the old days. He had cheated principals, cops, and life itself, but could he cheat death? Only time would tell. They drove through the city, Ferris taking Death on the wildest day he could imagine. First, they crashed an upscale restaurant, Ferris convincing the maitre d' that Death was a famous food critic. Then they sneaked into a Cubs game, where Ferris goaded Death into catching a foul ball. At one point, Death's expressionless face even cracked into a faint smile. But despite all the distractions, Ferris couldn't shake the weight of Cameron's absence. Every corner of the city reminded him of his old friend. He thought about how much Cameron had missed out on, how fragile life had been for him all along. As the sun set over the city, they ended the day at a quiet rooftop bar. Ferris sat across from Death, looking out over the skyline, the familiar words playing in his mind, "Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it." Ferris sighed. "You know, I've spent my whole life running from responsibility, running from anything that felt heavy. I always thought I could outrun everything. But I can't run from this, can I?" Death shook its head slowly. "No, Ferris Bueller. You cannot." Ferris leaned back in his chair, eyes heavy with exhaustion. "So what now?" Death stood, smoothing its dark suit. "You live. For now. But remember, time is not endless. Not even for you." Ferris nodded, a strange peace settling over him. "I get it. I really do." Death turned to leave, but paused. "Cameron Fry stayed longer than he should have because of you. In that, you cheated me. But in life, he lived more than he would have without you." And with that, Death disappeared into the night, leaving Ferris alone with his thoughts. Ferris stared out at the city, his mind racing, but this time, not with schemes or escape plans. He thought about Cameron, about Sloane, about his kids. Maybe it was time to stop running. Maybe it was time to live not just for the thrill, but for the people around him. So here's the new lesson for Ferris. Life moves fast, but it isn't about outrunning it or cheating fate. It's about facing the moments that matter, loss, love, and everything in between, and making the most of the time you're given, no matter how fast it goes. Concept and main story writing by XXXYYY aka Gary ZZZ. Voice by Text to Voice.